Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is February 5th, 2018. Just doing a quick little update. Mari and I have been pretty busy at the channel. Hope everybody's enjoying the interviews that's being edited. Hope everybody enjoys the videos that Mari has been making for the channel. Excuse me, a lot to go over. Climate-wise, space news, all that good stuff. Want to talk about our solar weather today, and if you notice here, we have a loop here of today's SDO. AR2699 is right there in the eastern limb. What's impressive about this, and I've been watching it all day, and this has probably been the most activity that we've seen from our sun since September as far as sunspots crackling with solar flares. And it states here that sunspots are at a 10-year low. A new sunspot group is emerging near the sun's eastern limb, though, with a primary dark core larger than Earth and more than a dozen smaller magnetic condensations trailing behind it. AR2699 stretches more than 75,000 kilometers across the sun's surface. Now, it has been putting out B and C class flares. Those are very minor. Nothing to really worry about. Sunspot number 11. KP indices kind of gone up a little bit today. They're sitting at 3 at 24-hour max and 3 for the overall for the 24-hour. And then the SDO, not really displaying any large coronal holes today as well. The typical northern hemisphere of the sun with the massive polar coronal hole. Other than that, nothing really to speak of as far as solar weather goes, but just interesting to see these sunspots emerging here lately. The last two lasted for about a day. This one right here is very, very active. I'd be shocked to not see this one make it from the east to the western side of the sun. So we'll keep our eyes on that, see if we get any solar activity out of this geomagnetic storm. The proton flux has been reflecting what we're reporting right now. It's, like I said, B, C class minor solar flares right now. So nothing terrible as far as to report on with solar wind speeds. They're sitting at 426 kilometers per second with a density of 6.5. So typical stuff here that we see in the minimums. The grand solar minimum, obviously very low solar activity. Today's weather update, what I saw in our local forecasts in the northeastern part, in the Midwest, Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, you guys are going to see some snow. We are going to see some snow here in the Northeast. And basically, like I'd said before, that pattern that's setting up in the Northwest, the jet stream goes all the way dipping down to Texas. So all the moisture shoots down what I call like the jet stream slide, and then fires back off through the Midwest and up into the Northeast and out to the Atlantic. So, again, we had some snow on the way for the weekend. It didn't really materialize as big as people thought. There was a lot of discussion about a monster snowstorm on the 3rd and 4th of February, and I think that kind of fell apart. Excuse me. And then, of course, we got a snowstorm again tomorrow, Tuesday, into Wednesday, into Thursday. That should bring some significant snowfall to most of the region in the western and the eastern part of the United States. But with all that said, Mari has put up videos after video after video of updates on worldwide weather records being broke. We put up a video yesterday about Moscow picking up a lot of snow in one day. There's rivers overflowing the Seine River last week, or the Seine River, I'm sorry. And then near New Zealand, there was some flooding going on out there. Flash flooding in New Zealand. 2 were killed out of a 5-person group. They were camping, and unfortunately 2 people lost their lives during the flash floods. So weather-wise, it's active everywhere. I'm not trying to be generic and not give a proper full update, but on this channel, Mari and I focus on things that are grand solar minimum related. So when we talk about grand solar minimum, we talk about the increase of cosmic rays. We talk about the increase of coronal holes because of the weak corona. We talk about the effects that cosmic rays have on our climate, in our atmosphere. We are seeing a cooling. Earlier in the week, I produced a report from Dr. Roy Spencer that showed that the temperature anomaly for the month of January was at a plus 26. Another person, Starman, pointed out to me also that June was definitely the coolest reading we got in the entire year of 2017 at plus 0.21. So that to me is more alarming to see that kind of a reading in June than December or January, because in January, December, you're expecting it to be colder, but you don't expect to see your troposphere global anomaly temperature somewhere in that area in the middle of, it was July when that came out. But with everything that we've done here so far, since we've relaunched this channel in January 1st of 2018, Mari and I have tried to step it up a little bit more with interviews of people who have something to offer to our community. We have 2 more interviews that Mari's sifting through the interviews now, possibly editing them and getting them released this week, maybe sometime. But so far, we've had Rolf Witze. We've had
another one of his coming up later on tonight.
Okay, great. So there's another Rolf part of the interview coming up tonight. We had Matt, was it Stein?
Matt Stein, he is the author of When Tech Fails. Really great guy. Lots to offer the community when it comes to prepping. He has written the Bible for prepping and survival skills. Really excellent interview. We spoke with him last week. We had like 5 interviews last week.
Well,
so
yeah, and then so we got information coming from that, and then we also talked to Sasha Dobler.
About the minimums,
right,
with correlation to plagues and that kind of stuff as well.
Well, and what we found out in that interview too is that he wasn't particularly saying that every minimum has a plague attached to it, but there are some that have had plagues attached to it. But the reason why I bring this up is because there was there was 2 people that we talked to that have the same opinion about the Milankovitch cycle. And David Dilley and Rolf Witze, both of them were the ones that surprised me and Mari the most with their answers. Now, the reason why I think they're saying this is because the Milankovitch cycle is so long. And guys, I don't know if you noticed this, but some of these charts that are going around that are showing the temperature drop from the Milankovitch cycle, if you look at these charts, they are rated in thousands of years. And my point here...
I don't know if I have a chart I could put up real quick to show people.
Well, the point I'm making is that Rolf and David both pretty much said that the Milankovitch cycle does not affect this current grand solar minimum. And the reason why they say this is not because they're denying the Milankovitch cycle, but because of how long the cycle takes for the Earth to get its furthest distance away, of the way they broke it down. Folks, we're talking tens of thousands of years before we are in the peak of this Milankovitch cycle. So I think that Dilley and Witze both believe that there is cooling that is involved with Milankovitch cycle, but none of us are going to be here to see it. Nobody. I mean, we're talking tens of thousands of years. And Mari, the reason why I'm bringing this is because my impression until this last week was that the Milankovitch cycle is going to deepen this grand solar minimum. But that's not what we're finding out, is it?
From my research, no. There are a lot of factors. It's interesting to hear people's opinions when it comes to it. You have so many different factors that play into our basic cooling trend right now. So, people saying that we're going into a full-on glaciation and ice age, I'm not really comfortable laying that out because the truth is no one really knows, and I don't see enough evidence at this time that actually points to that. Mini ice age, absolutely. Almost undoubtedly, with the amount of papers and research and correlating evidence, whether it be ice core samples, tree ring samples, planetary alignment cycles, sun data, all of that corresponds and shows that we are definitely going to be going into a deep cooling trend. Now, how far that goes, and then you have other theories out there like the plasma fields, the primer fields, and all that. A lot of unknowns, not a lot of data on that. I'm still researching a lot of that. I'm actually going to be doing a separate show regarding that because we've gotten a lot of questions about the primer fields where people just want more details. And I've found a few sources that do provide some details. But bottom line, what it comes down to is over the next 2 to 3 decades, society as we know it will be shifting and adapting. How severe that's going to be, the biggest concern right now is going to be the food supply and, famine.
And that too needs to also, look, we can't sit here. The only thing in my mind that causes famine and food shortages is ice ages and stuff like that where you just can't grow at all. The food shortage situation, I think it could happen regionally during a really bad storm or if the delivery system gets interrupted. I'm not saying we won't experience some shortages because in Western Australia we did that story. That rain closed down a major highway that prevented deliveries of produce and other goods to be delivered in that part of the country. So I think when Mari and I talk about food loss and shortages, we're not talking about a global scale of famine, but there is very possible for certain regions of the world to get into food shortages and possible famine for some of those smaller third world countries. So
there's famine there already. So
that's going to make things even worse. The one thing David used a lot in his interview was the word challenge. Challenge. How's everybody going to accept this challenge? Now, there's a lot of channels on YouTube that are...
Ralph used that as well.
Yep, Ralph said it too. So there's a lot of channels out there on YouTube that's teaching us how to grow, how to build, what kind of alternative information to use for energy, and that's all good and well. But we need to realize that as YouTube creators and people who are talking about this cooling cycle that the Earth is heading into, it needs to be clarified that the information on primer fields, there's just not enough info right now to support a possible primer fields collapse. I believe the person that did the experiment and research on primer fields, it was an accident. They didn't mean to find out about the sun primer fields the way they found out about them. What I'm trying to get at is that also Mari has dug up some information on 40,000 glacial cycles. And according to Dilly, he thinks we're 30,000 years out for a full-on glaciation because we just got out of one 10,000 years ago or a little bit under.
Well, and this is the thing, it's tricky when you're dealing with science. You will note people grasp on to certain theories and concepts like a religion. And I can't stress enough, if you latch onto an idea or concept that's just a theory, you might get lost and have your blinders on to all the different options. And the best thing really is just to take in the data and look at it objectively. And right now, as it stands, I mean, a lot of the data coming in looks like it doesn't look, we are going into a cooling phase.
We are definitely cooling.
It looks like it will be a mini ice age type of situation. I don't really feel there's enough data to say, hey, we're going into full glaciation ice age. There's a big difference, and I think people really need to recognize that, where the facts lay on the table. And just be cautious with what you latch onto factually. Don't make it a religion. Don't hang on to it so tight where you can't look at other things or zoom out and look at the big picture. I think we got to be careful. Because some people are stuck on the Milankovitch cycle and saying there's only 100,000 year cycles, when in fact it's proven in science through several different theories and papers. There's 20,000 year cycles, 40,000 year cycles, 100,000 year cycles. There's a lot more to the picture. And what we need to do is just slow down and take the information in and sort of marinate on it and try to put the pieces of the puzzle together without grasping on so tight. It needs to be sort of it needs to be malleable. We can't be criticizing people for their beliefs either. We need to learn to agree to disagree on certain things, but
I think
we're all here to find out the truth, but we also have to make sure we're not grasping onto things so hard it's like a religion as well, because I think that really clouds people's I can't even talk.
Well, I think here's the main message, though, and it is continue to educate yourself, continue to prepare. Prepare for the worst, hope for the best type of situation. We're not saying that people that are claiming that we're going to go into a full-on glaciation right now, that they're off their rocker. They have seen information that they believe in. I think what Mari really is trying to say is that be your own person, do your own research, collect your own thoughts, and make a logic decision once you've seen all the information laid out in front of you. Because I'll tell you right now, Rolf Witche was the last person I would expect to hear to disagree that the Milankovitch cycle has any immediate effect on a cooling or an ice age. So when Mari set these interviews up, for me, this was a learning experience. Not just I've never interviewed people before, because we have, but it was really interesting to get everybody. Hell, the one guy we interviewed, Matt, I don't even really know if the guy thinks we're cooling or not. He just happens to have a really good book about how to prep.
Yeah, Matt
everything. Medicine, food, you name it, shelter, energy, everything.
Matt covers in that book, I think he covers treating the planet nice and CO2 emissions, but I think he got caught up in the mix of the whole hype of that. But his book, over the whole book, grand scale, when it comes to prepping and survival skills, is absolutely fantastic, and he is such a great guy. I'll probably have him on a couple times to cover all different sorts of topics, because he is a wealth of information. One thing I want to mention is the mentality. When you're dealing with a topic like this, and there's a lot of unknowns, and people do sometimes get consumed with fear. Fear is paralyzing, and also fear breeds hatred and all that, and a sense of hopelessness for society. I believe as a human race, we have time to, with the right mentality, make change and difference. I think the more people that are educated and aware and prepared, it's not going to be as hard of a transition to adapt. And I think it's very important, not only as YouTube channels trying to spread the awareness, but individual viewers spreading the awareness, that the more that we share this information and we show compassion and love for humanity, that transition, we're going to have to come together. We all have to come to this realization. Society and mass is sort of taken for granted for what they have. Local farming is like a thing of the past. We have to sort of, it needs to be like a renaissance. We have to have a rebirth and, reinvent ourselves as individuals. And it has to start with each individual person before it can grow on a grand scale. It starts with everyone in a good mindset. I feel like there's a lot of people that are too scared to even know where to start or anything, and I feel like we should be tackling this from with just positivity and with a lot of hope for the future. It shouldn't be something scary. It just needs to be something we need to be alert, and we need to, work together and make changes to adapt.
I mean, if I had $1 every time somebody asked me where to move, I'd be rich. We wouldn't be on YouTube right now. And you know what? The answer is there's no real region for, in my opinion right now, obviously going south is the best. The further south you go, obviously, the better climate you get. But just like Amp said in the chat, he's not sure about temps because regionally right now, temps aren't cooling off everywhere, but the areas that it is cooling off, people are noticing it. But he's noticing the amount of rain, the amount of snow, the amount of volcano, the amount of earthquakes, and those are all thrown in the same pile of research that involves cosmic rays, grand solar minimum. You're seeing the increased amounts of rain and snow because of all the cosmic rays in our atmosphere. Now you think, well, what the hell does cosmic rays have to do with anything, Jake? Cosmic rays are those seeds for those particles for raindrops and snowflakes to form. That's why we're seeing some places, Western Australia picked up 18 inches of rain in one day. Another area picked up, I can't remember the exact area, but they picked up over 2.85 inches of rain in 1 hour. Oh, it was a story from 2 years ago. But that's fine because 2016 was the beginning of this process. So when you see somebody pick up 2.85 inches of rain in 1 hour, that's somebody's monthly total somewhere in the world.
Well,
most people's totals for that month are in the 2.5 to 3 inch range.
I got a little shtick for covering the Russia snowfall, but the fact is they broke a 100-year record, so why should that not be recognized? Yeah, snowfalls yearly, I get that, but they broke a 100-year record. It was a storm of the century, so it is definitely worth mentioning. There was a lot of trolling comments.
PW wants to know where can they buy the book When Technology Fails?
Well, I can post the link in the description of this hangout after it posts. I just have such a backlog with editing. I had all these great interviews sort of fall in my lap at the same time, and then, I just figured I'd get them done and then I can edit them and release them, but Matt and Sasha, I think I got 2 more Ralph ones to do, and oh my god. I do want to get them all out by next week, latest, so, but definitely we will post the link to When Tech Fails in the description. Matt's a great guy, and I highly recommend his book for prepping and survival skills. Excellent book.
Amp put, he'd love to see a book from us, but I tell you what, if Mari and I wrote a book about the grand solar minimum, it would be factual, and it would also be a way of how to handle, because I think there's so many things that we're covering on our GSM community, and the one thing that people aren't talking about, and I think it's something that Mari and I will get into, maybe we'll do a video one day about cosmic rays and its effects on health, but nobody's talking about the stress that grand solar minimum causes, not just the effects from the weather, but the after effects from the weather, where you have a storm where the power goes out, or maybe there is a food shortage where you live, or maybe the flooding is just redoing your entire geological layout. There is so much stress and mental anguish that comes along with any kind of natural disaster, and to think that for the next several decades, we're going to be experiencing, this summer with $306 billion worth of damage between 4 hurricanes? I hate to be banging on this drum, but that's going to grow. We're going to continue to see these strange storms dropping 50, 60 inches of moisture at a time, or tearing up cities, or God bless Puerto Rico, they're still without power down there. 40% of the country is still without power, and this storm happened back in September. So
Well, I saw I don't have my phone on me right more. My phone died, so I'm not in the chat anymore. I saw someone mention Thunderbolts Project. You know, they have some great content on there. I will agree with you on that, Thunderbolts.
Yeah, if you're into the electric universe and you're trying to learn, there's no better place to go to for information about the electric universe than Thunderbolts. With that being said, though, Mari and I will say that I'm more of an electric universe type theory person, but I will say this. There has been a couple people, Zarkova, and I can't remember the other person who believes in the dynamo theory, and I think Mari and I would love to try to find a way to hook back up with Zarkova.
To the dynamo theory, I think. I don't know.
I just want to look. Here's the grand solar minimum. We're just going to unturn every rock.
That's I think the best way to do it. So I might have Zarkova on again to actually talk about that with us.
Because there's a few people that actually use that dynamo theory.
It's just interesting. It's like an off topic, but when we have Old South Farm asking, what to expect, where to go. I mean, we only know what to expect from looking back in history. The truth is, no one really knows. All we can do is prepare. Now, Dilly and several other people like John Casey, they're saying we're going to see another year without summer. What will that do to the farming industry? What did it do in the past? I mean, this is the stuff we need to discuss and research and share with one another. So when and if it does happen, which the probability of that actually happening another year without a summer is pretty high, especially according to John Casey and David Dilly.
Well, we're due for a big volcano. As soon as a big volcano goes off, I can guarantee you we're going to see it.
And then, then you have to question, you got a whole year without a summer, what's that do to the food supply? That's an instant, eye-opener right there for people. David Dilly, reiterated people this day and age, they don't remember what it's like, going through those cold times, that hard weather and all that. So if we can't learn from our past, we will be in trouble, but we have time to discuss what challenges. I mean,
I hope I'm wrong with this, guys, too, but I don't think it's going to be as dire. Like, people should definitely learn how to grow indoors. I think if you want to have fresh produce, I think that's where we're going to see the biggest decrease in all crops is fresh produce. Lettuce, tomato, onions, cucumbers, pickles, anything that has anything to do with growing in the ground. I think it's smart that we all grow our own gardens, grow indoors if you choose. If you might have to, it just depends on where you live. But, I haven't seen enough information that's concrete that says we need to be ready for a full-on glaciation because it's coming very soon. I have not seen that proof. I've just seen a lot of theories. So in the meantime, we're going to continue to give you guys great content. We're going to continue to cover all the extreme and world weather. We're going to monitor global cooling. We're going to monitor stock market and crop losses and all that stuff. We're just telling you guys tonight that here at this channel, we're not going to, even if we catch on to a theory, we're not here to push this on you guys. We're here to educate. We're here to hope that we can help you guys out with figuring this out for yourself. What's right for you? Because not everybody has the money to move right now. Not everybody has the money to start a greenhouse or build this or build that. So you have to do what's right for you at this point. It's nothing that we can tell you where to move to or what to grow. All you can do is just be a sponge and get all the information about the grand solar minimum that you can and go from there. And the rest should come to you if you're a well-rounded person who's aware and educated about this. You're going to be fine. Our ancestors in the 16, 17, and 1800s survived this. We're going to survive this. We're going to get through this. I have faith in humanity.
I have faith in humanity too, and I think it's hard sifting through the fake news and the propaganda and all that, and I just think we have a good platform where we can get together, share ideas, bounce opinions, questions, all that off each other, and try to move forward as the human race, really, because we have to grow this mentality for future generations that we have taken things for granted, and we have to, wake up and become more sustainable, because right now it's just we live in a very consumeristic society that's taken so much for granted, and that needs to change. Otherwise, we are doomed to failure. And
Yep.
I have hope that mankind can change and do that. It just, you have to work from your heart, and you have to have humility, and you have to have compassion for your fellow mankind. So I don't know.
See, one more
so
thing before I
Yeah.
wanted to wrap this up real quick because we've been on for 30 minutes. But Old South Farm, it says, I'm just afraid of being a target and being killed for what little food I have stored. This is why Mari and I jumped on tonight, and we basically, I think we're going way too far. You guys are talking about Walking Dead type apocalyptic scenarios where there's the power grid. Now listen, if the power grid goes down, it's going to take a long time for it to go back up. So sure, as a society, we have to be a little more vigilant and a lot more neighborish and watch out for each other and keep from things like that happening.
Oh, that dog really just knocked
But-
the laptop down.
But, like I said,
You're a bad
I don't
dog.
think that this is going to be something that's going to happen in the near future where we're hanging. We had another channel that we talked to on the side, and her concern was, am I going to have to be sitting in my home with a gun hanging out the window?
Here's something. Have you heard of that happening in Puerto Rico? I haven't researched that. Those poor people have been without power for how long?
Well, I
mean-
think there is crime rampant right
But,
now.
is it bad?
It's corrupt.
So,
There's some very corrupt things going on in Puerto Rico right now.
you're going to deal with the a-holes
Sure.
with society, but
They said it best in Spaceballs. We're surrounded by assholes. Okay.
you have to prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And I just think if people have that hopeful mindset and can spread that throughout our communities, it's easier said than done. And it's going to take a lot of work, but everyone has to participate and say, listen, what are we going to leave for future generations if we don't change? Some people are going to understand it and latch on. Some people are not. And I believe the people that get what we're saying, they're going to be the ones that are going to have success and be okay. You just have to have like a blind faith and know that.
I think people in their mid-30s and up are not going to be alive to see a full-on glaciation. That's just my honest opinion. Anybody at the age of 30 and up, I don't think we're going to see a full-on glaciation. I think we're going to see the coldest climate we've seen in this planet in a long history. But I don't think we're going to see that big ice age coming down and freezing everybody off, and everybody has to move to Mexico and hunker down in huts.
I haven't seen enough evidence for that.
I haven't either. All I've seen is a bunch of people talking about it.
There is some theories that I'm desperately looking for more information on. We do take for granted that our sun is a constant, and is that something we should take for granted? Could something happen to the sun? I'm not one to say nothing's going to happen, because the truth is no one knows. So we just have to, prepare for the worst and hope for the best and whatever. But I truly think at this point in time, with the evidence that's on the table, with science and research, the worst case scenario right now from what I'm seeing is, a mini ice age.
Well, and I know we said this 6 times now, but one more thing. Mari found a jewel of information last night coming from Sky News, Fox News Channel's sister channel over in Europe. And they are now broadcasting this on their news channel, talking about... you guys have to check the video out. It's got the little minion in the cover, in the thumbnail. But this guy is funny. He reminds me of someone I know overseas. He's got a Napoleon Dynamite haircut, too, so that's funny. But this guy is basically saying everything that anyone who deals with grand solar minimum topics, he's telling everybody in their news, their mainstream media, that we are going to be cooling, that we are looking forward and having a mini ice age type situation. And he was talking about cosmic rays. And so I think the drumbeat is getting louder about global cooling. I think once you see the government change its way, it hands out grants for research, I think you're going to see a lot more people talking about global cooling. The only reason why they're not talking about it now is because there's no grant money in global cooling,
Exactly.
and all these people are getting global warming grant money. So if they start talking global cooling, that money goes bye-bye.
And one thing I like that Radical Gardener said is we got to stop like talking about, I forgot exactly what she said, but we have to discuss solutions. We know, that we're going into this cooling. Let's start talking about the solutions. And I think we're advanced enough in society where we can come up with solutions.
Yeah.
So I guess we've, I've mumbled.
It was a little bit of a
whatever.
rant, but I think some of this had to be said because we get a lot of emails. We have a lot of friends throughout this community, and our subs are wonderful people. And the last thing we want to see is anybody scared or worried. And when you hear some other channels with their content, and they tell you it's a matter of fact, we're going to lose the grid and it's never going to come back, that's false. I mean, I can say this, and this is I'm not trying to bring up old things, but even Lee told me, if the power grid of the world, even the United States, if that goes down, you're looking at 5 to 7 years before it's back up. It's not something that's going to stay away forever. Again, these are just going to be some challenging times. We're going to have to jump over some hurdles and figure out solutions on the fly if a solar event happens that wipes out our power grid. So, again, if it goes down, yes. Is there a possibility? Yes. Is there a solar flare chance? Absolutely. But I think it's irresponsible to tell people that once the power grid goes down, we'll never get it back. That's just entirely false. There's too many educated people on this planet who are engineers, know how to get the job done. I've seen this country work together when it really needs to, and I'm telling you guys, if we were in dark days and hope was looking bad, I guess I'm wishy-washy, but I have that hope that we could all pull together and get it done and get us back on track again. Because like I said, if we can survive this from the 16 and 1700s, I don't see how we can't survive it in this day and age with the technology and the ability that we all have.
We're also equipped with an unlimited resource of knowledge. We just have to tap into it and educate ourselves and prepare ourselves. The one scary thing, with me is the society, they just take it for granted. I don't think most people know how to start a fire, let alone, just basic survival.
Buy a homesteading book.
Water,
Buy a homesteading book.
Yeah.
Start with that. If you guys really want to do something for yourself, it starts with not just watching us or any other channel on YouTube that has great information, but you really have to pick up a book and see it for yourself. Put your hands on it.
You got to pick up more than one book. There's so many good books out there. But Matt's book on prepping is absolutely awesome. There is a homesteading book I will share with you guys as well. I'll do that. I also recommend locally buy your local atlas and stuff, which normally gives you places to hunt, shows you your ponds, what kind of fish is in there, shows you where your hunting sources are, just to have on hand, just to have it, peace of mind's sake. So, that's it. We have so much more content when it comes to interviews, and I got a couple different educational videos on the Grand Solar Minimum I'm putting together. So just stay tuned. If you guys need if you have any questions, you can just leave it in the comments or email us, and we will...
Airdrop 1 made a really good point with the cold weather that we've had in the north this year. Think about next winter when it gets colder and more snow. If you think the power grid's struggling right now, he's right. We might have brownouts, blackouts in the wintertime, because I've already seen a lot of reports about heating bills being skyrocketed everywhere. So, but yeah, Mari and I, we've got a lot going on with this channel. Lots of content. There was another question about nuclear plants. I think that could be a show by itself. So maybe we'll look into the field a little bit and see if we can find someone who's an expert in nuclear power plants and ask the question, what happens if an entire country goes down and all these nuclear plants are no longer... I mean, I know they got generators that'll supply them for a minute, but how long does that last? So
Lost Horizon, I agree. She says we need to enable our own ability to grow healthy food anyway, ensure non-GMO and organic. You know, corporations have taken over the agriculture in this area. Local farmers who just want to grow like organic, pesticide-laden food. They make it almost impossible. We've destroyed our soil quality in many places because of Monsanto and all the. I got pictures of me and my daughter protesting against GMOs from years ago, so I'm very much against GMO and that kind of stuff. We have to get back to our roots, support our local farmers. It's not anything that's going to happen tonight. That's why everyone needs to make a conscious effort into making this shift into the future. It has to be a individual, like a conscious shift. So you guys have a great night.
Yep.
We'll talk soon.
We'll get more videos out and more interviews, and we'll do another update probably tomorrow or Wednesday. I'm sure Wednesday with the snowstorm going through the country, we'll have a lot to talk about. So, guys, take care. Thanks for stopping in and listening. Is emerging near the sun's eastern limb, though, with a primary dark core larger than Earth and more than a dozen smaller magnetic condensations trailing behind it. AR 2699 stretches more than 75,000 kilometers across the sun's surface. Now, it has been putting out B and C class flares. Those are very minor. Nothing to really worry about. Sunspot number 11. KP indices kind of gone up a little bit today. They're sitting at 3 at 24-hour max and 3 for the overall for the 24-hour. And then the SDO not really displaying any large coronal holes as today as well. The typical northern hemisphere of the sun with the massive polar coronal hole. Other than that, nothing really to speak of as far as solar weather goes, but just interesting to see these sunspots emerging here lately. The last two lasted for about a day. This one right here is very, very active. I'd be shocked to not see this one make it from the east to the western side. Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is February 5th, 2018. Just doing a quick little update. Mari and I have been pretty busy at the channel. Hope everybody's enjoying the interviews that's being edited. Hope everybody enjoys the videos that Mari has been making for the channel. Excuse me, a lot to go over. Climate-wise, space news, all that good stuff. Want to talk about our solar weather today, and if you notice here, we have a loop here of today's SDO. AR 2699 is right there in the eastern limb. What's impressive about this, and I've been watching it all day, and this has probably been the most activity that we've seen from our sun since September as far as sunspots crackling with solar flares. And it states here that sunspots are at a 10-year low. A new sunspot group weekend. It didn't really materialize as big as people thought. There was a lot of discussion about a monster snowstorm on the 3rd and 4th of February, and I think that kind of fell apart. Excuse me. And then, of course, we got a snowstorm again tomorrow, Tuesday, into Wednesday, into Thursday. That should bring some significant snowfall to most of the region in the western and the eastern part of the United States. But with all that said, Mari has put up videos after video after video of updates on worldwide weather records being broke. We put up a video yesterday about Moscow picking up a lot of snow in one day. There's rivers overflowing, the Seine River last week, or the Seine River, I'm sorry. And then near New Zealand, there was some flooding going on out there. Flash flooding in New Zealand. 2 were killed out of a 5-person group. They were camping. And unfortunately, 2 people lost their lives during the flash floods. So weather-wise, it's active everywhere. I'm not trying to be generic and not give a proper full update, but, you know, on this channel, Mari and I focus on things that are grand solar minimum related. So when we talk about grand solar minimum, we talk about the increase of cosmic rays. We talk about the increase of coronal holes because of the weak corona. We talk about the effects that cosmic rays have on our climate and our atmosphere. We are seeing a cooling. Earlier in the week, I produced a report from Dr. Roy Spencer that showed that the temperature anomaly for the month of January was at a plus 26. Another person, Starman, pointed out to me also that June was definitely the coolest reading we got in the entire year of 2017 at plus 0.21. So that to me is more alarming to see that kind of a reading in June than in December or January, because in January, December, you're expecting it to be colder, but you don't expect to see your troposphere global anomaly temperature somewhere in that area in the middle of, it was July when that came out. But with everything that we've done here out of the sun, so we'll keep our eyes on that, see if we get any solar activity out of this geomagnetic storm. The proton flux has been reflecting what we're reporting right now. It's, like I said, B, C class minor solar flares right now, so nothing terrible as far as to report on with solar wind speeds. They're sitting at 426 kilometers per second with a density of 6.5. So typical stuff here that we see in the minimums. The grand solar minimum, obviously very low solar activity. Today's weather update, what I saw in our local forecasts in the northeastern part, in the Midwest, Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, you guys are going to see some snow. We are going to see some snow here in the Northeast. And basically, like I'd said before, that pattern that's setting up in the Northwest, the jet stream goes all the way dipping down to Texas. So all the moisture shoots down what I call like the jet stream slide, and then fires back off through the Midwest and up into the Northeast and out to the Atlantic. So, again, we had some snow on the way for the week.